Turner Corp says, we will never, ever, ever have another wrestling person run this program. That ain't going to happen. So everybody started submitting their resumes to get the job. Bischoff submitted a bullshit resume. He got the job. About the second day he's there, he steps, pokes his head in my office. He says, hey, Mike, come here and talk to me for a minute. Because I had, loaned him a gun at one time and talked to him and kind of was helping try to mentor him and talk about this and talk about that. We were buddies. I thought we were buddies. And so he brings me in his office and he says, what would you do if you were running this company? What would you change? Well, I'd already been talking to Hulk Hogan to get Terry to come work for us. Because at that time, Vince was in all that drug stuff the first time about steroids and everything. And Hogan was trying to separate himself from that. He didn't want a part of any of that mess. He was wanting to do TV shows, but he hated Bill Watts. So through Jim Barnett, I arranged for Terry to meet Ted Turner and be hired by Turner to do TV, to do that stuff, and just lend him to WCW for a pay-per-view or for a TV. He didn't need to be on every show, That way he didn't have to answer to Bill Watts, didn't have to do any of that. Well, when Bill Watts got fired, then I said, and he hadn't signed yet, I said, you need to hire Hulk Hogan. And I've already brought him here. He's already made the meetings. He's in. With Bill being gone, it's a no-brainer. We were having a hard time trying to get big crowds for TV. Before I went to work for them, Steve Kern and Steve really spent a year going to Universal Studios, talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. And finally, I went over with him the last meeting, and they were going to give us our own studio. They were going to make us part of Universal. We were going to have wrestling shows, like 2 shows a day. And the crowd from Universal would filter in, they'd fill up the building, and we'd have a wrestling match, and they'd leave. I said, you need to go over, but Universal was going to pay us to do that.
Okay.
So you need to go over to Universal Studios. You need to get the same thing we were going to do, where you get paid, you've got a built-in audience for your TV, and all your TVs will look good. He went, wow, yeah, that sounds good. And I said, at that time we would do like 2 or 3 pay-per-views and 3 or 4 clashes. Well, it cost the same amount to do a clash as it did a pay-per-view, except for we got no revenue from it. So I said, stop the clashes. I said at that time it was like, I want to say $250, $300 to do a clash, or it was the same thing to do a pay-per-view. I said, do a pay-per-view once a month. We get some. We're not out there, doing it for nothing. I said, and if you use your TVs, we'll take the pay-per-views and we'll book it like we used to book Bayfront Center. We would use our TV in Tampa and around that area and build and create and build and create. Then we'd have the big blow-off and at the Bayfront Center or Lakeland or whatever once a month. So I said, we'll use our TVs, we'll use all the stuff and create, and then once a month we'll have a pay-per-view. Instead of a big live event, we'll do a pay-per-view. So I was sitting in his office and he called Universal. Eddie Mansfield happened to be at Universal after Kern spent a year talking to these people. Then I went over for the final meeting and we ran into him at a 7-Eleven or something. He was trying to get some TV show or something like that. Well, he just happened to sit in on our meeting. A month after that, Kern went to work in Tennessee or someplace. And Dusty called me, and I went to WCW. Eddie Mansfield to this day still has wrestling at Universal Studios. When I went to work, and Kern went to work, because Eddie was sitting in the meeting, they thought he was like part of our company. He said, yeah, Mike went and did this, Steve's doing this, but I'm staying here. And he got the wrestling at Universal Studios. So Bischoff calls. They put Eddie Mansfield, and Bischoff had the speakerphone on. Now he thinks he's a big cool guy. Yeah, this is Eric Bischoff. I'm CEO of WCW. And Eddie was always a smart ass. He says, what was your name again? Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff. I don't believe I've heard of you. What is it that you're wanting to do? He says, well, I'd like to come over and you wrestle at your venue and do TV stuff like that. And Eddie goes, No, I've already got wrestling and I've got wrestlers and I've got TV. I really don't need," and hung up on him.
Oh.
You could see the smoke coming out Bischoff's ears. He was so mad. I got up, I walked to the door, I looked over at him, and I said, "Disney's right next door. Same theme park, same thing, but bigger." He said, "Oh yeah, I can really see pro wrestling and Mickey Mouse going together." A month later, we were doing TV at Disney. A month after that, Hogan was hired. A month after that, no more clashes. I gave Eric Bischoff his key to success of that company. And he just went crazy. Just giving people stupid contracts. God, you talking about somebody that got drunk with power. It was, and he was a real jerk off. You know, I have no respect for him in any way, and I hope you hear this interview, Eric, because you're a thief and you're no good. So that's a fact. He should never have been in the wrestling business. He single-handedly bankrupted WCW. I'm surprised he's not in prison. I'm surprised he's not in prison for corporate fraud.
Really?
Yeah.
It's that bad?
Yes.
And
Yes. Sting and Luger and Flair and everybody had the same music for 15 years. Eric Bischoff starts a music company and says, "Nah, we're not going to use that other music. We're going to rewrite everybody's music, and I'm going to give the contract to my music company." He was signing the checks.
There we go.
He was signing the checks.
Double dipping.
Poster, the window cards. We'd use the same window card company, printing company forever. He puts Buff Bagwell and his mother in the printing company business, gives them the contract to print all the cards for WCW. Gives one of his other Oriental buddies in Oregon or something like that the rights to sell T-shirts to Japan. When NWO came out, huge. Eric was selling the T-shirts to his buddy, or WCW, but Eric was running it. Eric was saying, "Yeah, sell them to him for $5. Yeah, do this, do that. Yeah, send $400,000 to the music company. Send $200,000 to the printing company. Do this, do that." He was okay and everything, sending money to himself. Companies that he owned part of. So Japan was sending the Japanese guy, his car dealer friend or something, and wherever it was, huge checks. And Eric and him were partners together. And it goes further than that. Kevin Sullivan was there through all that. I was gone. I'd had enough. I left. But Kevin was there. And I just don't see how some people have been able to make it through and not just gotten massive trouble. And he's just a dishonest, no good thief.
Oof.
From me to you, Eric. Jerk off.